Hello. Is there an echo? Okay. I wish you all could see what you look like from this point of view. There's a sea of residents, and for this, I thank you. We all thank you for coming in. Okay, we're going to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance by Sandy Thompson. And for those of you who might not know who Sandy Thompson is, she is the president of our Carillon Association.
She is?
Please rise, those who can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank all of you. This is an important meeting, as usual. They usually give us some pretty good information and allow us a lot of questioning. All yours.
Okay, just a couple things I'd like to start off with, and that's to let you all know that this meeting is being videotaped. So smiles look really pretty when they're looked at again. And there is some hand sanitizer in the back of the room there. That's about the best we can come up with for now, so use it if you choose. Okay. The participants that are sitting up here, there's that female up there. Okay. How about if we start off with this end of the table? This is Mr. Nick Palmer. If you'd like to stand and tell them who you are and how you're going to help and keep us informed.
Good afternoon. It's great to be back. I've been here a number of times to talk about the light on the south end. We're not talking about that today, so it's good. But I'm Chief of Staff for County Executive Larry Walsh. Like I say, we've been here many times, and there was a concern about information about the construction work at I-55 and Weber. And so we worked through our County Highway Department and our contractors, and we brought them here today to give you some information and hopefully answer some questions. So we're glad to be here, glad to have such a great turnout. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Hello, I am Jeff Ronaldson. I am the Director of Transportation for Will County Division of Transportation. Formerly, I've been here a couple of these meetings as well, but formerly you've probably seen Bruce Gould in this particular role, but since he retired, I have taken over since then. We have some individuals on the right that are probably going to do most of the speaking and answering your questions. While I am the head of the department, the finer details will be over here to my right. My assistant county engineer, Brian Gieske, is right here. He is the manager of our construction, so if there's any projects that we have going on, he manages the construction. So I've already given Mary Woods his contact that she can keep in touch with him. I'll hold this a little closer so you can hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, Brian Gieske, assistant county engineer. He'll take questions directly and then find out the finer details. We have with us IDOT as well, Jeff Washington. He might speak a little bit more in a moment. But we have our two consultants on the right side over here. We actually have, if you recall, there are two projects out there combined, trying to work together as best we can. There's a Will County piece that is basically, it's a little south of Normantown, down through this entrance here. That's the Will County's piece. Then IDOT's piece is from Normantown north to 119th Street. So you got two different contractors out there, two different jobs, two different lead consultants as the resident engineers. The resident engineers are on the right. They'll introduce themselves specifically and who they relate to, but we're going to have them answer the questions that you're probably wanting to ask. Where's the project at? What has gone on so far? And what to expect in the coming months and years. There is a plural to that. So again, I want to make sure we get your questions answered. They will best do that, but as the project goes along, again, you will call my office, Will County DOT, and we'll get you the answers you need as we move forward. But right now, this is what today is all about.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Gieske. I'm with the Will County Division of Transportation, Assistant County Engineer. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Jeff's assistant, and I do oversee ongoing construction contracts throughout Will County. Weber Road is probably our biggest at this time, and Any questions, there'll be some updates coming up. I think I've been asked by Mary Woods to communicate with her first, though, and Mary and I will be in touch in the future. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello? There you go. Good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Washington. I work for the Illinois Department of Transportation. I've been with the department for over 30 years. This will be my second Diamond Diverge interchange. I did the first state Diamond Diverge interchange in Naperville about 4 years ago. My resident from Benish will be able to answer more questions for you because he's here on a daily basis. But if you have any questions for the department, I can answer directly. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Dave Cuthbertson. I work for Alfred Benish & Company. I'm the consultant resident engineer for the section from Normantown up to 119th Street. So that's the section that goes through the main interchange. I'll just tell you a little bit about the project, what we've done and where we're at right now. Last year was spent doing a lot of work to relocate utilities to get them out of the way of the new construction, and that took quite a bit of time. And in addition to that, we spent time building additional pavement, temporary pavement, on the east side of Weber Road in order for all lanes of traffic to be maintained during construction. That's a really important aspect to this project, to keep all lanes open. It's also one that is causing the project to go several years, but the convenience is an important priority for our project. Now in the last couple of weeks, we just started construction back up again for the year. We did some water main relocation work on Normantown, and the contractor has moved up a little further north with another crew working on storm sewer installation. All of our work north of the interchange right now is taking place on the west side of Weber Road. It'll begin with continuing the storm sewer installation, followed by mass grading and getting ready to put the base down for the road, the new road that's going to go in. And it's going to be widened. I'm sure you all know it's going to be 3 lanes eventually in each direction with a divided median. We are going to get started next week with some of the work down in the slough area. That is going to take place first on the east side of the road. We're getting prepared to finish all the temp pavement down south of Normantown Road in order to get all the traffic shifted over to the east side, while all the projected work for this year is going to take place on the west side. That's kind of where we're at right now. Again, for the remainder of this year, all the work will be on the west side. Work will continue at the bridge. We will be building the abutments later this spring. And hopefully we'll see some steel going up in the air for the new bridge structure probably mid to late summer. So there'll be a lot of exciting work with that going on. The steel erection will be taking place in the overnight hours because it will require lane closures on I-55. So that's kind of in a nutshell where we're at there, and Vince will take it from here.
Good afternoon. My name is Vince Sorrentano. I work for Knight Engineers and Architects. So I'm the engineer on the south contract, which pretty much starts in the slough area and runs all the way to the south past the gate here, the main gate. So like Dave has explained, our project is pretty much in the same configuration, doing the same work that he has mentioned. We are a little further behind, as you can see. We're not completely into stage. We are doing what we can, where we can, because of the utilities that have delayed us. And we will also be staging in conjunction with the interchange, because it's our jobs to make sure that both contracts work together and they don't, they flow smoothly. So the contractor has been able to take advantage of the winter season and do some work. We're going to certainly see a lot more activity, especially at the gates. We're going to be staging more traffic, so we just ask that everybody be patient and follow the construction barricades and the signs to make sure that everybody drives safely through the project. As far as any specifics, we'll probably do a question and answer, okay?
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for all your updates so far. And how about if you can kind of get a little feel from where we are. Okay, so you're on one side doing the work and we're here waiting to see what work is going to get done and when. So the best that we can hope from you, or someone in particular here, to keep us informed as to what's going on. Whether you're on schedule, behind schedule, whatever you're doing, because you know we've got a pretty confined group here in Carillon. So guess what goes around? Rumors. Okay, and that doesn't do anybody any good. Certainly not any of you guys, and certainly not for us. So again, if there's a way that we can keep in touch, keep informed of what's going on or what's not going on, then we can at least know the truth and not what somebody said. The wrong somebody.
Hello? IDOT has a website for both projects. You can get weekly updates on that website. I will have to get the website to you. I will get it to Mary, and
yes.
I'll get it to you, and you can get it to the residents here, and we can take it from there. But it is a website already established. I get updates every week from them, and we put it in, whether we're on schedule, behind schedule, or so forth. And I'll get the website for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Speaking of rumors, is there a story that is true, false, or otherwise about a failed inspection? Or, so that was just a rumor then? Is that what we're looking?
Failed inspection of what?
On the east side area where the swamp is? Does that sound familiar?
I don't believe there's any failed inspection. We are doing contract work and it's going according to plan. It's very involved in that you're going to widen out the roadway and you're going to place an awful lot of weight from the new embankments and the new traffic in that area, which was never intended to hold up traffic. So the stone that's going down is a platform for equipment that will place, that'll auger holes into the ground and get filled with concrete, and then more stone will go on top. And that's a system that will support new embankment and a new roadway. To my knowledge, we haven't had any failures. We've had some utility relocation through that area, and we're going to have to work very carefully around the new utilities. But everything is so far according to plan. Of course, you mentioned dates of completing the work, and because the utilities took so long to do their work, that is, put us a little further behind. So you do have to understand that we will be working out there until 2022.
So we can look for a completion date of 2022?
Currently, January 2022 is the completion date for the north contract. The south contract is still being evaluated, but I foresee us following in step with their completion date. But you have to keep in mind, there's an awful lot of work that goes on before we get to that point. There's a lot of weather delays, and there's other things that affect the work. So while we're saying January, it could be longer depending on weather circumstances.
Yeah, Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate, does she? Okay, I'm sorry.
They can't hear back here. Turn it up, they said.
Okay, so maybe I can just get a little closer to the microphone. Is that better? Can you hear me back there?
Actually, it's not you, it's them.
There's some seats up here.
Hello? Okay. It's already been said, but I just wanted to reiterate the point about, and maybe ask the question too. The widening of the road was done in part, I think, and clarify this if it's wrong, is this community was concerned, I think, as a lot of communities are, when there's construction going on, are you going to shut it down to just one lane in either direction? And obviously, emergency vehicles do come in here, and so one of the concerns raised years ago, I think when we had these meetings, was keeping those 2 lanes of traffic open as much as possible. So that is happening, obviously, right? So the lanes have been widened, they're temporary, but some of that will be taken out at the end, right? But it's to keep 2 lanes of traffic open throughout the duration of this project. So that's something that I think this community asked for, people in this community asked for, and it's being done. The other question, I'm just going to jump ahead because someone may ask this, is concerns about cars coming off the highway and backing up on the ramp, and sometimes it ends up, the traffic is stopped on 55. I'm sure some of you are concerned about that. And is there anything that can be done with the project to expedite traffic exiting the highway through the signalization or what have you? But I know I've heard from residents that that's a concern, and I take the exit ramp myself sometimes, so it does happen occasionally. So.
5 days a week.
Yes, it's a very congested area, of course, and that is definitely why we are doing this project, is to increase the capacity of that interchange. Unfortunately, while we are attempting to increase the capacity of the interchange, there are sections within the interchange that have to be closed in order for us to do the work. And clearly that is the situation that we are in. We have to reduce the lanes. We're widening a little bit on the ramps to create some room, but we have to create areas in which to work. And the hope is that we can get that done and get the lanes back open as quickly as possible. But regardless of whether we do that during construction, the full benefits of the increased capacity of the interchange won't be realized until after the project is complete, because it's like a jigsaw puzzle. We have to build parts of the interchange and parts of the bridge and parts of the roadway at specific times in order to accommodate having all lanes, as many lanes of traffic open as possible at one time. So we understand it's terribly inconvenient. But again, we just beg for your patience while we continue to do the upgrade. And once the project is done, you'll see a much better flow through the interchange, and hopefully eliminate, if not vastly reduce, the delays on I-55.
There are currently 4 lanes at River Road coming from the city. Only 2 of them are open. Why don't you open all 4 so that 2 lanes can go each direction? Because that backs up all the way onto I-55. I was on there for 10 minutes and was scared to death that I was going to be run over by a semi. You have 4 lanes right at Weber on that exchange, and only 2 of them are open. The others are paved, and the Weber Road itself is wide enough to take those 2 lanes in.
Unfortunately, it's not wide enough to take those in. That we've reduced the widths of the lanes, and the center islands have been removed in order to maintain that 2 lanes of traffic in each direction with the turn lane. So with that, there is not enough room to safely have 2 cars turning at the same time in the same direction.
Right at that turn, there are actually 3 lanes open going south. on Weber Road.
There's only 2 lanes that
There's
are
2
proceeding
lanes,
south.
and the other part is a partial lane that's open for about 25 feet. If you go out there and look, well, you've probably seen it every day.
Right, and there's been accidents there from people already attempting to do that because there just isn't enough room. They come together and they collide, and so that's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, I would hope that you would really take another look at that, because that is very dangerous onto I-55. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. One of the things that the department is looking at is a smart work zone. At this present time, we're looking at, because like the gentleman said, traffic is bagging up on 55. So with a smart work zone, before you get to 53, it will let you know the congestion at Weber, and you can get off prior to or after.
My question is about the sound walls that are to be erected, and at what point in the project those are going to go up, and will they extend all the way to the south gate?
Currently, the sound wall that's going to be installed under the contract that we're working on is from North Carillon Drive up to the pond. That's the only wall that's going to be built under this contract. There's future work that Will County has planned on Weber Road that will include the wall south of the fire station, but that's not part of the current contract.
Correct. I'd like to reiterate that point. We do have our second project between South Carolina, that goes all the way to Airport, to widen the rest of Weber Road to 6 lanes. That is currently in phase 1 design. Maybe midsummer we'll have that done so we can start the phase 2 design work. So we're still probably 2024 is what we're shooting for construction of that segment. And those sound walls that we are not building in this project here, we are going to build in that project. We made that commitment to make sure we do that. So the wall that will be from the fire station heading south will be in the next project.
Did I understand you to say that the area of 135th Street to Airport will be in the second phase? Is that what you said?
The sound wall is, well, we do neck down south of 135th, so, but it goes through it's just south of 135th, right? That's the end of the project.
The intersection of 135th will be completely reconstructed and channelized to the new configuration, and then south of there it'll taper down to the existing lanes.
So yes, from 135th south down to Airport, that is included, all that stretch is included in the next project.
Okay, great. What's the time frame?
Yeah, the time frame again on that is construction is scheduled for 2024, but we have a lot of design work, and then there's the right-of-way acquisition, which inherently delays us. So, but if everything goes well, construction is 2024. Start. That is to start. The start. So we're going to get this section done first, and then hopefully we'll be in line to start the next section.
Can we
There's nothing down at the south gate during this project, other than you might see some staging go back and forth right in that area for the main project. But there's no widening at the south gate at this time, no.
Can we expect detours during the actual construction of the bridge?
Answer that question, or have someone else answer that question in a second. You're talking about would you repeat your question, please?
The stoplight that we are supposed to eventually get at the south gate.
Yes,
So now you're saying we probably won't get the light till 2024 or later?
The South Carolina light, if chosen to be moved forward, I mean, that discussion is still ongoing and we're figuring that all out, but that has always been included in the second project.
Thank you.
And if we can have you raise your hand if you have a question, so that they can bring the microphones to you. Thanks.
Can we expect detours during the construction of the actual bridge?
Where either northbound or southbound Weber will be totally closed?
There will not be any detours for northbound or southbound Weber. However, toward the very end of the contract, there will be ramp detours for 9 days while the signals are being erected and tested. There's a period of time where you cannot maintain the ramp traffic at the same time that we're trying to erect those signals and test them.
Okay. You also mentioned that the pavement, at least on the north of the bridge, is temporary. It's basically concrete now. Why would you tear it out?
The temporary pavement that was put in concrete was contractor choice. It could have been asphalt if they had chosen, but this particular contractor, they deal with concrete a lot more, but it wasn't made to support long-term the county's desire and the state's desire for a full-depth construction. It's just in order to maintain the 2 lanes of traffic in both directions while we're constructing it.
Got it, thank you.
One current question, is there any way you could address the very difficulty in seeing the lane painted marks, especially in the evening? And that runs all the way from Weber, from Carillon here up to probably 119th or so. They're very difficult to see at night.
Yes, sir. Probably within the next couple of weeks, we will be getting our contractor out there, of course, weather permitting, to touch up those markings. That typically happens during the wintertime with the type of markings that go down, snow plows, salt, snow. It tends to not be very kind to the markings. So those will be touched up, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks here.
Okay. And a second one, could you restate what you said a little bit earlier about the wall, where it's going to start and where it's going to end?
The wall, I don't remember the south of the south gate. I just know there is a wall between South Carillon and the fire station that we're not putting in as part of this project, but will go in the next one. As far as any walls further south, I'd have to look at the plans, I don't recall. But what you're most concerned about, I'm sure, is South Carillon North. That is the wall that will be in the 2024 project. Although there is a sound wall to the north of North Carolina, I believe, that is being installed. There is a wall proposed north of the North Carolina Drive, yes. In this phase, correct. I don't know the timing of the sound wall construction, though, if you guys know at all at this point.
Well, the contractor's preparing to get started with that work, but he may not complete the wall until later this year. But the contractor is actively working that area. And that wall will go from North Carolina Drive up to the pond area.
Very simple question. When the bridge is done, God willing, how many lanes will there be in each direction, including the turning lanes? Oh, somebody has to know that.
There will be 3 lanes in each direction, plus 2 turning lanes, so you have 8 coming off the bridge and going into the bridge.
I'd like to find out for sure when that stoplight was scheduled for the south gate. You know, we've been waiting here for years. We've got problems now getting in and out, and we're all senior citizens. When you start expanding further, that's going to be difficult to get out the south gate with all the traffic going on.
Right, the South Carolina Drive signal is what we're talking about. That was a discussion between the county and the Carillon community for a while now. There has never been a consensus as to it actually being needed. We have verified that the warrants are there, that it can be put in, but then it comes down to funding. and we've been working with Carillon community to, because it's a benefit to the community, there's a participation factor, and we have not been advised of that level of participation. I think we may have made some comments back and forth on that, but there's not been any settlement on that. But irregardless, that signal, even if it goes in, it doesn't go in until that second stage project, which is in 2024. So I just want to reiterate that point.
The problem is, we need it now. And we're paying such high taxes. Where are our taxes going to besides supporting the public schools?
I'm just going to add one correction to Jeff's comments, because we did have numerous conversations. I know the Carillon, the CAMA board took this up because the county was seeking some participation. And some of us at the county agreed that the Carillon community pays a lot of taxes. You pay for your roads inside your community here. You don't send any children to the local schools because you can't have children in here. But there was a disagreement. But there was even, I recall being at meetings here where there wasn't a unanimous opinion, or that everyone in this community thought the signals were absolutely needed. But it really came down to funding. So the state has, through the capital bill, this is the correction I wanted to add, is this, and that's all right, he just forgot probably, that the state has put some money into the capital bill to fund that signal, so the construction. The challenge is, do we construct a temporary signal? And this was the debate we had with Carillon, or not debate, discussion with the Carillon community, whether we put in a temporary signal and wait for the eventual construction of the road, or do we wait and put this permanent signal in once? Because otherwise you're putting in a temporary, waiting a few years, and then putting in a permanent signal. And there's challenges to putting in the permanent signal in advance of the eventual construction. And since, I don't know that there was an official decision made in this, but since there was a disagreement or a lack of consensus in Carillon that was absolutely needed, the decision was made to hold off for now and do the signal when we do the permanent construction. Because as Jeff has already mentioned, we're doing this Weber Road in phases. That we're doing from 119th all the way to 135th, and then we're going to go from 135th to Airport, and so that would be part of that next phase. I wish it could be done sooner. I mean, the alternative is we could make that a right-in, right-out access there, but I think people still want the ability to go left out of the south gate, but it's not the safe, in my opinion, it's not the safest option. So, I mean, that's the facts. You may not agree with it. I'm not crazy about it. I wish we could put the signal in now, but the decision was made to try to be fiscally responsible and put in a permanent signal with the construction rather than doing a temporary and then a permanent later. So,
But bear with me 1 second, okay? Illinois, I believe, has a rule. There has to be how many people killed at an intersection before a stoplight is put up, or a stop sign. This is what concerns me. We have many people here who have appointments, medical appointments that go north as well as south. I'm concerned about our community here, the safety of our members.
I have a question. I have seen portable stoplights all across different counties where they just plug them in. They're on wheels. Why couldn't we have something temporary like that?
Those are temporary, very temporary. You see them up for a short amount of time. Those don't last very long, or they get vandalized a lot or knocked over a lot. They're not very permanent in nature. You do see them around, I agree. Those can, like for our bridge projects, often you see them for short bridge projects. But if we're going to do a traffic signal, it has to be a permanent, somewhat permanent nature, like temporary signals. So if we try to put one in now, we're putting in a temporary now. When we go to widen the road into the next project, you have to put in another pair of temporary signal just to widen those out so we can do the construction, and then you put in the permanent. So you have the cost of 3 signals that you're putting in. That's what Mr. Palmer was referring to, fiscally responsible. That adds the cost substantially. That's why we have chosen to wait until the second project.
May I ask one question? I'm here. The question is, you said you don't have a consensus. Why don't you ask the people in here right now if they want it or not want it?
First of all, Nick, a question for you, because you just touched upon at least a verbal agreement between the CAMA Board of Directors and Will County as to some funding on our part so that you guys at the county level would contribute your share for this quote unquote temporary light. Whatever became of that situation?
I believe we did ask the CAMA community, and there was a proposal by our county board to come to and negotiate a contribution level. But when we came to those meetings, it was not unanimous by any means to pay for a signal. So instead, the General Assembly approved money with the capital bill to pay for the signal. So I believe the answer, and I may have to double check this, but there is no construction cost to Carillon because there's at least a portion of the money is coming from the state, which would have probably come from Carillon. So Carillon is not paying for the construction of the signal. Carillon, my understanding is the signal at the north gate, you pay a portion of the maintenance fee of that, and you will, and probably at the center gate too, most likely, yeah, at the center gate. So the existing lights, you pay a portion of the maintenance cost, which is not a huge cost. You will be responsible for a portion of the south gate also, but that's really the cost now to Carillon. The construction cost has been, in theory, wiped away by the state coming up with the money for this. So
yeah.
It ended with that.
I have another question. It's got nothing to do with the light. And that is that you have some sections of the pavement, I think it's generally on the west side of Weber Road, that are still blocked off with construction. Why can't they be opened so that we can at least find it easier to get in and out of North Carillon Drive rather than going out into almost the east? Well, we are going out to the eastbound lanes.
Last year, we put part of the south contract into stage. And I do understand what you're saying. There's a lot of pavement out there that was not being worked on at the time. But we made an effort to allow room for a contractor to take advantage of the winter period. There has been some work, not a whole lot of work is from probably your perspective, but there's a whole lot of planning that goes into staging of traffic. And it took us quite some time to get to where we're at today. And it cannot be done in a matter of days or even weeks. So once we move into a stage, we have to stay in that stage until we complete our work. So we're in stage now, and the contractor is working in that area, and there's more work planned in that area. So you'll see a lot more activity. And it has to be that way because we need room to build that new pavement. So that's why so much of the old pavement is blocked off.
I understand that, but for periods of time, and I'm thinking specifically just 25 feet north of the north gate, there's been a backhoe or a crane sitting there, hadn't done anything for months and months. Now, okay, you're going to say that's part of the equipment that's needed for that plan. But why couldn't those lanes have been opened, recognizing that that piece of equipment wasn't going to move for a month or 2 or 3? Now, it's no big deal to move those traffic signs in off the road. The cops do it.
Well, we cannot. We have policies and we have procedures that we need to follow. And safety is really the key here. We can't just open up lanes temporarily like that. So the bottom line is we moved it into stage so that the contractor can start the work further down. You can't move around parts of the roadway. You either have the whole section moved over or you have none of it. So we've moved as much as we can into stage so that we have the winter period to work.
And I'll just add on to that, if we have maintained the existing condition before, 2 lanes in each direction, so the community is still enjoying that fact. You're actually talking about adding in a 3rd lane by getting that stuff out of there, but that's going between 3 lanes, 2 lanes, 3 lanes, back and forth. You're talking about striping changes and confusion of motorists saying, okay, today, is it 3 lanes or is it 2 lanes? That's kind of the policies that he's referring to. We don't make those drastic changes because then it's just confusion for a lot of the motorists out there. So we stick with the plan, which is 2 lanes in each direction. Yes, there might be room in some locations for some additional, but we're not going to go back and forth, as Vince alluded to.
Actually, we're looking for a right turn lane into North Carillon Drive. That's 3 extra lanes there. Right now, they're doing some construction, but for the past 6 months, there's been nothing but cones up there. That's a right turn lane into Carillon, into North Carillon Drive, coming from the north.
I understand what you're saying, but the plans were drawn up and we need to follow our plans. We can't just, start changing things.
We have people driving through that area just to make that shortcut all the time. And you guys fix it by putting up more cones.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not safe to drive through a construction zone because conditions can change on a day-to-day basis. So I really highly suggest that nobody drive through that construction zone.
I just want to reiterate what they were talking about with the crane. I back up to Weber Road, right there by the North Gate. I'm on Forsythia in Canterbury East. And I can tell you that they are working, and those cranes are moving, because I hear it every day. So,
Excuse me, can I have this person stand up for us so we can hear you a little better? Thank you.
yeah, they start at like 6:30 in the morning, so the cranes are being used, and the work is being done, and we just have to have patience. And believe me, I live right there, so I know.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Any other questions?
Over here. Wait, 1 second. Hold on.
You're so little. I'm not little. Well, you're sitting, you can make it hard. I'm sorry, if you could stand for us, please. Oh, no, too hard. It's too hard for you to stand.
Hi, I just had a question about the wall that you were talking about from North Carillon Drive back to the...
Excuse me, they're not here.
Oh.
If you could stand.
Okay.
Right into my...
I was having a question about the wall that goes from North Carillon Drive back to the pond or whatever you call it. And most of Carillon is in the opposite direction. And with all the anticipated truck semi-use of the new Weber Road, the rest of the folks that live south of Carillon Drive are going to be exposed to the loudest whatever. So I was hoping that there would be, for the largest portion of our community, would have access to a wall as well. So I'm hoping that's in the future.
Like we mentioned before, that north wall is part of this current contract. South of the fire station will be coming in the future. And the reason why we couldn't construct it as part of this contract is when we widen out a roadway, we have to purchase right-of-way for not only a wider road, but for all the utilities that have to be relocated to move out of our way. The right-of-way has not yet been purchased south for that widening, and because of that, the utilities couldn't move back, and there's no room yet for that wall to be constructed. That's basically the reason why, my understanding is we're not including it under the current contract.
That was a good question that leads me to my question. How are you guys doing with your dealings with the farmer across the street? Because it seems to almost like it's a junkyard, a construction area. There's more broken concrete and such in there, and it don't look like he has any intention of planting anything this summer.
I believe you're referring to the Ward family farm?
Yeah. What's the name?
Ward.
Okay. Yes, that's it.
The contractor, the prime contractor for the south contract has made an arrangement to use part of his property temporarily. So that's why you see stockpiles of topsoil and concrete and other materials there. That will all go away eventually. I don't know his future plans for his property, but that will be a temporary use site for the next couple of years.
For those of you who may not be aware, you have an alternate route for getting off at Weber to go south. I have, if you will allow the term, done an end run on that whole intersection. If you exit at 53, if you were to exit Joliet Road goes south. It does seem like a long way to Normantown, but all the lights are timed, minimum traffic. You can go all the way down to Normantown. It has its own right lane to turn, and yes, you have to come back to the west, but once again, it's a clear shot. You're not waiting in line, and you're not fighting with trucks that are trying to pull in and cut in front of you in the one lane. I suggest you try it. It's very satisfying because you're moving all the time, and you can get home.
There's also, thanks, Marianne. There's also 53 that goes down to 135th Street. Okay, so for the southern area in Carillon, you can always go down to 135th Street and again, avoid those wonderful semis.
Hi, I was wondering if there are any plans to make an interchange at Veterans Parkway and 55, get some of the trucks off of our road.
At this time, we're not aware of any plans to build an interchange at Veterans in 55.
On southbound 55, just west of the way station, there is an exit ramp already there, just covered with mud and grass. Why not scoop it off and let the trucks get off there? The trucks don't want to go to Weber. They want to go to the section east of Weber.
I believe you're referring to the old frontage road that's covered with mud. That's not an exit. It was never an exit. It was a frontage road. And that would never meet the standards or the criteria for an exit for IDOT. So I don't think they would ever consider that as a temporary exit.
Hi, not being an engineer or ever wanting to be, I'm in awe of the process, and although it will take a long time, I'm just so grateful for the talent that you and your crews all have. So thanks for taking your time today to be here.
Good afternoon. Revisiting something you were talking about earlier, as I understand it from what you were saying, when you're coming south on I-55 to get off at Weber Road, there will in the future become a time when for like 9 days you will not be able to get off at that exit?
That's correct. That'll happen at the very, very tail end of the project, just before it opens completely to all traffic lanes.
Over here. As a general interest question, hopefully, how did you dry out the swamp area? I've gone down at least 10, 12 feet. I can't believe it.
There's times of the year that it appears to be dry, but there's always water moving underneath the surface. So the contractor has installed what's called a French drain. It's simply a pipe that's driven or excavated down into the wetland, and it's filled with stone. And then they have pumps. They've been pumping water out. And if they have enough pumps and they run long enough, they can keep it dry enough to do their work.
How did you get approval from the EPA to do what you're doing?
I had a question on the traffic pattern that's out there now, where the northbound traffic goes and then southbound goes. Is that something that will continue after the project is done? I'm guessing not, but...
Can you repeat that question?
The traffic pattern you have out there now is the traffic will flow north, and then it stops, and the traffic flows south. And it stops, and then we go out of Carillon. And then that repeats. Is that something that will continue after the project is complete?
You're referring to the traffic signals, how they're sequenced?
Yeah, the sequence of the signals getting out of Carillon.
That is done because we've had to remove the left turn lanes on the northbound direction. So the designers felt it was best to split the sequence of that. That will continue until we move into a stage of construction that once again restores those left turn lanes.
Okay, so it's a temporary thing.
It is a temporary thing. Once we're complete, you'll have some of those intersections dual left turn lanes, right turn lanes, and you'll have the traffic signals that will pick up on the presence of traffic and react accordingly. So it'll go back to normal from your what you're seeing is what we had before.
It's been a marvelous idea. I think it's been there 2 months or something. I have never turned left coming out of Carillon going north and had a backup of traffic down at Normantown. It just seemed to really answer, while the traffic is flowing southbound, the northbound lanes get a chance to empty up down at Normantown, and when you turn out of here, it's wide open.
That's taken a little bit of time to work out, and we appreciate everybody's patience and some of your feedback. It does get tricky trying to time the signals all the way through the corridor, and we agree. We think we kind of have it set up now for a while.
I have a question about the marshland. Oh, the marshland? Water always seeks its own level. What's going to happen after all this construction to the water that is still in the marshland? You said you're going to put gravel and stone and cement and make it look real nice. Well, what if we get one of our storms and when all the water comes, like in Naperville many years ago, or the water, what if the water comes up and over the road again?
The new roadway will be approximately 18 inches higher than the present roadway. So I believe the designers have taken that into account And there's also a new box culvert that will be built underneath Weber Road to equalize the water on both sides. So I have to trust that the designers have taken all this into account.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add real quick, when we do those kinds of designs and we take away the capacity of the water or encroach upon it and make that area smaller or fill it in, we are bound by requirements from the regulatory agencies. We have to get permits, and we have to accommodate for those things we take away by putting it back somewhere else. So those permits were received by the regulatory agencies. We've made the accommodations as per their requirements. So everything's been designed accordingly, and the plans are to build it according to plan. So
I have a comment to make regarding what this young lady said before about that Veterans Parkway. In the local little papers, there was a column somebody had wrote that they were considering opening that up for trucks only. So somebody was looking into it. Was it IDOT or just the town of Romeoville or Bolingbrook? But there was a big article in the local newspaper about 6-8 months ago.
I can say, and I mean, we can research that, but there was discussion years and years ago when they were doing the original concepts that was suggested by someone, but that was never, for whatever reason, it was never considered and implemented, I guess. There is plans, and I'll let Jeff or someone else if they want to speak to it, plans for new interchanges at 126 and Airport Road, which are further down 55, that are in the IDOT's multi-year plan. When those will actually be constructed is to be determined, but I recall that being discussion of that years and years ago when they did the initial community meetings about having a truck on-ramp or off-ramp, and for whatever reason, those weren't actually acted upon. But that was probably 10 years or more, maybe, I don't know, 8 years, so maybe longer, I don't know. But we can see if there's any recent discussion, but my guess is it's somebody who participated in those meetings years ago and are just remembering that too, so.
No, but this was last year. It wasn't last year.
I understand, but I'm telling you, there were meetings I just had a conversation with someone the other night about the meetings over at the Romeoville Athletic Center where we had community groups, community leaders talking about because there's a whole process that leads up to one of these projects. It's fully vetted, and that was one of the ideas was presented at the time, and either it wasn't logistically possible or they just decided not to do it cost-wise maybe, but there are additional interchanges planned south of here. It's just the time frame I couldn't tell you. Maybe IDOT or Jeff could talk.
On a totally different subject, looking forward to this summer when Ribfest is moving down here to Romeoville. What are the plans to handle the traffic up and down Weber Road when you've got close to 1 million people coming to visit our neighbor?
all I'll say is you had 2 lanes in each direction. In previous years, you'll still have 2 lanes in each direction.
I have 2 questions. First of all, is there anything planned across the street from us where the West Suburban Bank is for a right-hand turn lane onto Weber Road going north? Is that part of anything, or are they just going to leave it as it was?
I'm sure they're doing something there.
So you're talking about Grand Boulevard?
Yes.
I do believe there will be, no, I don't think there's going to be a separate right turn lane there. There's just not enough right-of-way width there to build another lane, so the lanes that were there previously will be restored.
Okay. My second question is, with the new lanes coming in, being 6 lanes on Weber, is our front entrance on North Carillon Drive going to be reconfigured? Because I heard that the center medium is going to be removed because we did remove a stoplight, a street light.
It'll be reconfigured, but it'll basically be the same as what's out there.
Okay, so we'll have a left-hand turn lane, a lane to go straight, and a right-hand turn lane, just like it was.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, if we can move on then to the area of I-55 and 126. Yes? Do we want to talk about that?
The only comment the county has is that it is in IDOT's multi-year plan to do that. As to what year it is, it's not identified in their multi-year plan. I don't know if IDOT really wants to comment any further than that, but it is at least in the IDOT's multi-year plan, which it has not been. So, but the county doesn't really have any say in that other than that.
How about I-55 and airport? Okay, so then same. Okay, how about I-55 Weber Road to Willow Springs Road resurfacing?
Willow Springs to Weber resurfacing?
Yes.
That's complete. That was done 2 years ago.
You're talking about Weber to... You must be talking about Weber to I-80. 2 years ago, I did Willow Springs to Weber. Weber to I-80 resurfacing will be in spring of '22. Plans are being prepared now.
Okay, we've got all of our answers, we've got all of our questions answered. Can I assume that that's where we're at? Then on behalf of the Civic Committee, I'd like to thank you all for coming. A sincere thank you to you gentlemen for your time and your answers. And most of all, I'd like to make sure that we maintain a level of communication. Okay, so that we can dispel any of those nasty rumors.
Could I make a suggestion that we try and have a meeting like this every 3 months, just to update everyone?